This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.
Retail automotive is a complex ecosystem with various technologies at play. In this final segment of our three-part series with Acxiom, we're exploring the bridge between marketing, technology, and premium data. We are joined in the studio by John Campos, who's the industry managing director for the automotive industry at Acxiom, and Brian Pasch, who's the founder of Pasch Consulting. I know that you know this gentleman because he's on CBT all the time. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me in the studio here.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, it's great to have you in the studio. You know, no more Zoom calls and all of that kind of stuff. It's great people are coming back into studios now, so we're glad to have you here. John, let me start with you. Previously, we talked about the importance of moving to marketing cloud platforms and the importance of premium data. Let's start the conversation with the fundamental why. What's the business case for dealers to take on what could be an overwhelming and costly initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, it's an important initiative, an important decision, and when I think about what that business case is, I really summarize it into three main drivers. The first being consumers expect it, right? We ourselves as consumers gravitate to brands who really treat us well, right? So they expect that level of personalization, that level of engagement. Time and time again, as you see research done, Acxiom's done some research, large consulting organizations, consistently we see those surveyed, 70+% say they expect a personalized experience. So that'll be the first area. The second area is really around, improving business outcomes, right? And, simply put, we think of it as the better you know somebody, the better you can engage with them, the more likely they're going to be, buying from you.
Yeah.
And when you think about that from a sales perspective, certainly you could see the connection of, hey, if I understand this person better, I can probably meet them with a better offer of what they're interested in. There's a whole other side of that on business outcomes really related to cost savings, right? Eliminating that waste, right? So by having this marketing solution, better data fueling that marketing solution, you're eliminating that waste. And the third and last component that I would add from a business case is going to be around compliance. We certainly understand the legislation that's coming down around protecting consumers' rights on their data. And embarking in this type of endeavor really puts an organization in a position to evaluate what are all the data sources that I have, who am I sharing them with, and by going through that process to stand up this marketing platform, you're inherently doing an inventory.
Yeah.
You should take that opportunity then to go and evaluate, do I have the right practices and policies in place and how I'm using that data?
Yeah, for sure. I see you shaking your head, Brian. I know you want to jump in here, especially when you said compliance, right?
Yeah, I think that dealers don't know where their data is sitting at rest, whether it's encrypted or not. The common practices today are dealers give access to their DMS or CRM, or are asked to dump ASCII comma delimited files of data, ship it via email off to an agency. No one really knows where they're stored.
Right.
Are they disposed of? Are they secure? And I think that the idea of legislation, rising operating costs, and a desire for greater personalization is moving dealers to say, I need a new piece of technology in my arsenal, my operating toolkit to create a better customer experience.
Yeah, for sure. Dealers use a lot of different technologies to run their business, DMS platforms, CRM applications, and now cloud-based marketing tech like customer data platforms and clean rooms. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and the difference between the different platforms? Now we have a new term, clean rooms, right?
Right. Dealers are realizing that the DMS is really their static historical log, the QuickBooks for automotive. Their CRM is to service immediate sales opportunities, but they're realizing that they have no control over the cadence of communication. 3, 4, 5 people are communicating with their clients. They don't know how often and the frequency with the consistency. They don't have a way to improve lifetime value because, again, they don't have all the data. So what's happening is these customer data platforms are coming to market. I believe that dealers will have 3 primary tools, right? It's the DMS, CRM. They're not going away,
Right.
but the customer data platform. And then, as a growing number of OEMs start using CDPs, how can OEMs and dealers share information, maybe on what they're sending out to consumers or recalls or data, but in a safe way where dealers feel the OEMs aren't taking their customer data.
Right.
So a clean room is the bridge between 2 secure data sources that allows for collaboration.
Okay.
The addition of the customer data platform or these cloud-based solutions, to your point, Brian, it's not eliminating the need for a DMS system, right? They're complementary. And one thing I'd call out to dealers is to think about when they're looking at vendors in this space is making sure that you can have that interoperability, right? Because you're going to need to be able to work between these different systems.
Sure, yeah. John, what sort of new talent capabilities do dealers need to consider, and why?
Yeah, great question. You know, as you start thinking about new technology, we could naturally gravitate to that side of the response, right? Which is there are going to be new skill sets in understanding marketing technologies, understanding these cloud platforms, and certainly that probably fits in the remit of a CIO. We're starting to see some roles like a chief technology officer coming in. But as you kind of move across that spectrum, now you have more customer data. You're starting to see more organizations have somebody who has the remit around being that steward of the data. In very large organizations, you're seeing a chief data officer. But even if you don't have the ability to fund a separate role for this chief data officer, you're going to have somebody who has that remit, right? They are the stewards of the data, making sure that it's being taken care of for the overall organization.
Sure.
And the last piece is going to be now brands have and dealer groups have this ability to have a more powerful engagement with their customers because you have more insights, you have more abilities to connect with them. What is going to emerge is this need of who's really driving that customer experience. A lot of times that sits at the CMO level, but there is this entire domain and discipline around understanding that customer experience and building programs that, how can I ensure that there's a seamless transition from my digital experience to in the showroom.
Brian, this is not your father's dealership, I should say, right?
No.
Not all dealers are equipped either financially or operationally to undertake a data strategy and move to a marketing cloud platform. What are some of the indicators a dealer group might be ready? What does that look like in terms of number of rooftops and such?
Sure. So there are different scaled platforms to the size of the dealership. I would say like the enterprise class customer data platforms that are the most open and support wide integration and published APIs with robust data pipes, probably 20 or more rooftops. You start making the business case that a CDP makes sense.
Okay.
But what if you're 1 or 2 or 3?
Which is really
rooftop?
the majority of the dealers out there. Yeah.
They still want to have solutions that are turnkey, that are doing more with their data. And what we're seeing is that marketing platforms are kind of backfilling or adding customer data management tools.
Okay.
But one of the things that I don't think is clearly been communicated with these customer data platforms is they're only as good as the data that you bring in. And so once you create a customer data platform, dealers have to realize that CDP technology companies aren't the source of fresh data. They are really a unifier of the data that you give. So you give bad data, it's going to stay in there. And so the move to data management platforms, cloud-based data platforms, have to also come with a discussion as who am I going to partner with to help me keep this data up to date.
Sure.
And that is really the challenge because some platforms are not very open. They don't have the ability to bring in whatever vendors the dealer wants. And this is part of the shopping strategy is how open do I want my platform to be?
Right.
I would add on to that when you think about organizationally being ready, I think there's also a need for, is this a executive level leadership top-down decision that we are going to be customer first? Because the adoption of these solutions and these tools they do take change and they take some time. And so having that as a top-down leadership initiative is critically important as well.
Yeah, and Jim, one other thing with change is often it's accommodated with savings or revenue gen. And CDPs will do both, just as was mentioned earlier. But there hasn't been a single dealer group that I've looked at yet that the savings and sales opportunities didn't pay for the investment 5 or 10x. So but it's a new technology, it's a new mindset. So getting a comfort level with what those savings could look like and what those new revenue opportunities can look like are not things that just roll off dealers' lips. And so companies like Acxiom and myself are really helping to educate dealers on the use cases and the financial outcomes of making a data-centric shift.
Yeah, for sure. John, for those dealers that might not have the financial or the operational wherewithal, what are the big dealer groups doing that smaller groups can consider?
Absolutely. And I think, if the financial wherewithal is not there to maybe stand up an entire marketing stack and the cloud-based solution, I think at the foundation becomes the quality of that customer data. So to your point, it's like the fuel that's being, that's feeding programs, and it's really making sure that that data is good, that, you've eliminated the waste where, maybe people have moved out of your marketing area, maybe somebody, you have them within your DMS system as 2 different individuals. There's all types of, potential waste that can be eliminated through just cleaning that data. And I would say, that'd be the best place to start.
It seems like automotive is always late to the game on this kind of stuff, right?
Well, it's been somewhat limited to the tech stacks we've been given. For the most part, automotive tech stacks were never built with APIs, interchangeable data access. There's a lot of walled gardens within the dealership. I think we're late to that story, which has hindered innovation for years. The cost of getting access to the dealer's data, the robustness of the data stream. But I think there's a new movement. I think the DMS players are realizing that they have to integrate with and participate in the CDP story, or they will be losing customers. So there's a revelation happening that they need to be a bigger part of the story. Data hygiene has to be a bigger part of the story. And we're hoping that as the largest dealer groups put their stake in the ground and saying, we're going to have a single source of truth. We're going to trigger all marketing from that. That's going to create a better customer experience. We're going to increase our lifetime value of each customer. That some of these case studies will come to CBT, we'll share them, and get people excited that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing in marketing, which is today, comes to a close, and we start to have more holistic marketing strategy.
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of for both of you, but done right, what are some of the use cases dealers can enable in sales and service to acquire new customers or keep current customers engaged and coming back for more?
Yeah, I can start.
Sure.
I think of a few, we'd call low-hanging fruit that could be done with, this smarter data-driven marketing, certainly from an acquiring new customer standpoint is like better targeting, right? So who within my customer file or within this prospect list that I've acquired, who's maybe right at that cusp of purchasing an EV. So that's a solution that could be driven by data and understanding like who's at that tipping point that I can target for the EV inventory I have on lot. Another use case would be something like retaining my customers. So we all know that service defection is an important situation, but it can also be improved by a data-driven model, right? Understanding who's more likely to defect and putting our best offers in front of those individuals.
I think that dealers are super excited right now about knowing more about the people who come to their website. So industry average, 2% of the people who visit dealer's website, max, will fill out a form of some sort. another 6 or 7% will call. That means 90% is anonymous. So with identity resolution technology, dealers can know when their existing customers are shopping on their website before they fill out a form or call. They can determine a relatively high percentage of the anonymous shoppers de-anonymize, so they can drop in a direct mail piece, or they can do some form of outreach. So I think that use case, new revenue gen is reducing defection, being able to send personalized offers to people that don't submit a form or a phone call. And then one third thing is suppression. Right now, most dealers, agencies, whether they know it or not, they're getting a list, they're loading it up in Facebook, Google, they'll run it for that month. In that month, people can be booking service appointments or setting up a test drive or even purchasing a car, and they're still stuck in these marketing lists. Now, granted, on pay-per-click campaigns, it's not a big cost factor, but it's a sloppy. The thing is that when someone moves from one state to another in real time, they're moved from these virtual lists, and that's a big thing. Suppression can save up to 10% of a dealer's marketing budget. When you think of large dealer groups that are spending 20, 30, 50, north of that, then you start saying, wow. I mean, in real time, people can move from acquisition into, hey, they booked a test drive, take them out of acquisition, put them in a brand loyalty or a why buy campaign. These are some of the use cases that are creating, raised eyebrows. I want to learn more.
And this is something really that OEMs are wanting their dealer body to own in a big way, right? And to get right.
Yeah, well, we're seeing now, Mazda is one of the first, really recently announced, all of their dealers are to be using their CDP, national CDP, which is tagged Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Mazda is selling these audiences to the dealers through their approved vendors. And this is where companies like Acxiom with clean room technology, a trusted clean room, can now start to do some really creative things with dealers who have a data-first strategy. So we're going to see more. Ford Direct is another company who behind the scenes have really stood up a CDP. We're going to see more of this in the days to come.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to add on to that certainly OEMs are already, enacting a lot of these strategies today, more data driven. And so we are anticipating that connectivity between, tighter connectivity between Tier 1 and Tier 3 through the usage of a clean room, some way to share data together.
Brian, what are the business risks and implications of doing nothing in this area?
Well, as I mentioned, if you're waiting for customers to fill out a lead form and call you, and your competitor is being alerted each day which of their customers are in market and decoding 30, 40, 50% of the anonymous shoppers, they're going to be able to reach out to them way faster in a more personalized way than any dealer who's doing current, it's a non-identity resolution-based marketing. So here's what we do know. When you reach out to a customer at the beginning of their journey and send them consistent communication, and that consumer purchases with the dealer, the gross is about 30% higher. And here's the reason why. Building trust, consistent communication, and a simple sales process allows for a greater comfort level. And when dealers start to say, not only will I have an edge on my competition, I like that, but I'll be more profitable, then it starts to say, this is more than just a tech gimmick. It's really everything that I want, from better LTV, better loyalty, and a competitive edge.
That's right. John, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I would add that, going back to the beginning, consumers expect this. And again, ourselves as consumers, we're just naturally gravitate to brands who give us the experiences that we're looking for. And so, if there's a dealer group that is not moving forward with this, I think over time you're going to see that naturally I'm gravitating to those who are. Right.
That's right.
The second thing I think is this technology is expanding rapidly. So if you're not starting to move now, that gap is only going to widen faster and faster on you. And that's going to pose a pretty significant risk.
Yeah, there's no question. It sounds to me like this is something that dealers really have no choice. They have to take a look at this and go into this realm. I mean, this isn't something that they can just sit on the sidelines, right?
Absolutely.
And not if they want to survive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Acxiom's John Campos and Pasch Group founder Brian Pasch, thank you both for joining me in the studio today. This completes our three-part series with Acxiom, a leader in identity, customer data management, and the ethical use of data for more than 50 years. So these are the kinds of solutions, folks, that we want to be bringing you here at CBT News. This is something you do not want to be without. So start today. If you're not already in this and you don't already understand this, get to know it.
Thanks for watching Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.